All right. What's up? What's up, everybody? Party people. Back again with another video. Again. Now it's too many videos. Made too many videos now. Now it's too many. All right, the audio's coming through. Good. All right. So now I'm going to check Grok. I only use it briefly to make a couple images, but I'm going to check and see if it can give us some answers to some of these political problems or what its suggestions are. Check it and just check it out. It's 1 a.m. Don't really have anything else planned, so figured what the heck. All right. Let's start off with the last question. All right, it looks like we got an answer from the AI. Okay, so what does it say? Libertarian principles which emphasize individual liberty, free markets, voluntary cooperation, limited government intervention, and personal responsibility can benefit low-income families by fostering economic opportunities, reducing barriers to self-improvement, and promoting efficient aid systems. While critics argue that these ideas might favor the wealthy, evidence from libertarian-leaning analyses suggests they address root causes of poverty more effectively than expansive government programs. Below, I'll outline key ways these principles can help, drawing on substantiated arguments. Substantiated means it's backed up. It has some substance to it. Promoting economic growth and entrepreneurship. See, that's kind of where I was going with it. That's what I was talking about, basically. Free markets and reduced regulations encourage job creation, innovation, and lower prices, which disproportionately aid those with limited resources. Eliminating occupational licensing requirements, which affect about 40% of professions, including low-skilled jobs like florist or hair braiders. See, I kind of know what I'm talking about a little bit. Makes it easier for low-income individuals to start businesses or enter trades without costly barriers, boosting employment and income. This reduces prices in regulated fields like healthcare, making services more affordable. Lower taxes and deregulation spur overall economic growth, as seen in historical examples where freer markets have lifted billions out of poverty globally. For low-income families, this means more disposable income and access to cheaper goods, rather than funds being diverted to inefficient government bureaucracies. Right? Because even the people that pay taxes for welfare think about it, before one of their dollars reaches someone in need, the bank's going to take a cut. The government, the federal government's going to take a cut. Think about it. Out of that dollar, they have to pay every single person in Congress, the Senate, the presidential, the executive branch, and the judicial, right? And all the people that work for the federal government, right? Then it goes down to your local. Then they have to pay all those people out of that $1 that a person that even wants to help a underprivileged person, right? So by the time that dollar gets from the person that wants to help an underprivileged person through the government to a person that's actually in need, there's only like 5 cents left, right? Reducing the cost of living. Government-imposed costs like tariffs, zoning laws, and trade barriers inflate expenses for essentials, hitting the poor hardest. Removing tariffs on imported goods, i.e. shoes and clothing, could save the poorest households around $92 annually, with even higher savings for families and children. Deregulating land use and zoning could cut housing costs by up to 40 to 50% in high-demand areas, making affordable homes more accessible and reducing homelessness risk. This empowers families to relocate for better opportunities without being priced out. Improving education access. Libertarians advocate for school choice to break the cycle of poverty tied to underperforming public schools. Policies like vouchers, charter schools, or tuition tax credits allow parents to select better educational options, potentially reducing dropout rates, which increase poverty risk fivefold by age 30. So, people going to these horrible public schools where they're being bullied, harassed, fear for their life from one of those events. It's I could see it'd be kind of hard to concentrate if you're waiting for someone to pop through the door at any second doing that, Plus, I think, this is a more personal view, but I think that, the co-ed school system was kind of a fail. I think, having a boys-only school or a girls-only school, especially when they're hitting puberty type age, probably a good thing for concentration. Just have boys with boys and girls with girls. That's kind of like, there's like a certain tradition in certain tribes in Africa where they do that too, where it's kind of like when they're prepubescent, they let the boys and the girls hang out so they're not like afraid of each other and hate each other. But, once they hit puberty, then they separate the boys from the girls, All right. This is modeled after successful programs like the GI Bill, which provided vouchers for higher education and helped veterans escape poverty. For low-income families, this means children aren't trapped in failing districts, leading to higher future earnings and intergenerational mobility. So I didn't really have that one, but there you go. When you can, it's this principle of you being able to, you're the purchaser. So when you're the purchaser, you choose what you're receiving. And if what you're receiving isn't up to the quality that you want, then you don't pay for it. But when you have a state-funded, taxpayer-funded, by force, you have no choice what your children are learning. You have no choice who your children are associated with in school. So, you see, like, at first it seems crazy. It seems like these guys are that's all they're saying. They're just saying, cut welfare and let's get rich. And get rid of the government and all this stuff. But in reality, it's much more complex and nuanced, and these things are like really researched, and people understand how it can actually help people. Okay. Reforming criminal justice. Overcriminalization, especially the war on drugs, disproportionately harms low-income communities by creating employment barriers and family instability. Ending prohibitions on victimless crimes, i.e. drug use or prostitution, depends on how far, would reduce incarceration rates, which raise a family's poverty probability by 40%. If a parent is imprisoned, affecting millions of children, this removes, so basically 40% of the millions of children are affected by, or that is millions of children that are affected by the 40% of parents in prison. Okay. This removes criminal records that hinder job prospects, allowing individuals to reintegrate and support their families. Yeah, I know what that's like. Encouraging private charity and self-reliance, rather than mandatory government welfare, which has spent trillions with mixed results and can foster dependency. Libertarians favor voluntary private aid, which is more targeted and accountable. Private charities provide personalized support such as job training or short-term assistance tied to behavioral improvements, e.g. requiring sobriety or job seeking, unlike unconditional government checks. In 2015, Americans donated $373 billion and volunteered millions of hours. Reducing government programs could crowd in more giving, as historical data shows. Examples include community networks like the LDS Church in Utah, which emphasize self-reliance and have contributed to low poverty rates through mutual aid, or historical fraternal organizations that offered insurance and support to low-income groups, like the Freemasons. This builds family bonds and community resilience, reducing reliance on state systems that often perpetuate cycles of poverty. Like, these people have been studying this stuff for a long time. They're not just like making this stuff up like yesterday, you know, and we've tried a lot of the other stuff and it's not working. So, you know, I'm not saying go full ANCAP. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, you know, just to even understand these principles and how, you know, to identify politicians that are for these types of principles. And that when you hear someone, you know, espousing these type of principles, that you know that they're not evil. You know, they're not evil. They do believe that it would actually be better. And they have a lot of evidence that it would be better. Okay, so overall, these principles aim to empower individuals by removing government-imposed obstacles rather than redistributing wealth through coercion. Not a panacea. Some poverty stems from personal factors like addiction or mental health. Libertarian approaches prioritize freedom and productivity, which historically tends to link to widespread prosperity gains. So there you can see that, you know, there's a bunch of links in here. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Cato organization because they're kind of like open borders. but they're just following the specific principles, like for the open borders thing, because with the open borders libertarian thing, it only works if it's coupled with, removing the welfare state, basically. So it's like you can open the border and have anybody come in here, but you can't expect the people that were already here to just give them money for free just because they came here. And so that's part of the reason why people want to close the border, is because of the welfare system. So it's like you can, get rid of the welfare system and keep the border open, but you don't want to do that. You want to give everybody health care and tax the rich and keep the border open. Can't do that. So that's how you basically use Grok. I'm sure everybody else knows how to do it, but this was my first time checking it out, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. Pretty good. It's got the links and stuff. If I want to, I've heard the arguments before, but I like how it has the links right there and stuff. And cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll check back in with Grok when we have some other questions then. But for now, that's all I got for the video. Have a good day and peace.